Okay, so now we are going to talk about beliefs and expectations. So, this is something that has been brought up, and I realized that this is a huge, huge obstacle for virtually everyone. And I want to take this session and really focus on our beliefs and expectations about our ability to create more wealth, create higher income, create assets, create investments that can support us in the future. Um, Now, beliefs are one of those things that we've already addressed, but I want to really laser in on this, um, because if you don't get your beliefs aligned with the amount of money that you are aspiring to create for yourself, you just simply will not create it. So I'm going to take you through a series of questions, and I'm hoping that since this is recorded, what you'll do is if you don't have your notebook handy, that you will go and grab it real quick, or you'll at least grab yourself a piece of paper where you can take down a couple of notes. Now, as we go through this, I'm going to ask you to be as open, as self-honest, as objective as you can. You might get a little bit triggered. That's okay. Just remember to let those feelings come up and let them pass through. See them as energy. It's just an old pattern that has been triggered. There is energy associated with it, and we're aware of it. We're not going to push it away. We're not going to try to positive talk ourselves out of it. We are going to acknowledge it is what it is. It is in my subconscious programming, and I am willing to release and let it go. I'm going to let those feelings come up, and I'm going to let them pass through. So now I want you to do a little bit of self-honest introspection and take a little bit of an assessment of your current and past money reality, we'll call it. And that really is just the reality up to this point. Okay. So look at your life right now in relation to the amount of money that you have. Okay. And notice how much money do you have in the bank? How much money do you have in investments? It could be a retirement account. It could be stocks, bonds. Doesn't matter where your investments are. It could be real estate or some other type of investment. But just be aware, take note, whether on paper or mentally, how much wealth do you currently have? Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, I've got X number of dollars in the bank. Maybe I do or do not have money in investments or in assets, and I have X amount of debt. So maybe your net worth is currently in the negative. We're doing our best here to be objective, honest, and objective. And it's okay to feel negative emotions. Say yes to those feelings. Let them come up and let them pass through. This intensive is for the purpose of clearing away that stuff. Up to this point, when those things got triggered, you did whatever your normal thing is to avoid those things. So we know that doesn't work. Okay. And I'm not saying we want to dwell on our money triggers, but we do at least have to pull them up and release them properly. And by avoiding, by distracting ourselves, by trying to feed our mind all sorts of positive affirmations, we're not uprooting the limiting beliefs that are creating this current set of circumstances for us. So now let's just get real and say the only way things are going to change is if we uproot those weeds. Okay, so that's what we're doing here. We're going to uproot the old limiting beliefs and disempowering expectations so that all of those new seeds that you're planting with the hypnosis, with the affirmations, with the goal setting, that those seeds can germinate and create a very abundant financial garden for you. Okay. So now you've done a bit of an honest assessment of your current financial circumstances. And this is really high level, right? I'm not asking you to pull out your QuickBooks. I'm not asking you to go through your annual taxes, okay? This is a very, very high level, but it's deep enough that we're going to start to identify what your current beliefs and expectations are around your ability to have money and to have wealth. Okay. Now I also want you to take note of what is the most amount of money that you've ever had in the past. Okay. And that could come in different forms. It could be in the form of how much you've saved, or it could be in a lump sum. Like the biggest contract I ever had was for $20,000, or the biggest contract that I ever had was for $200,000. Okay. The best month that I ever had was $100,000 in income. Or I, at one point in time, sold a company and I had $5 million cash in a bank account. Okay. So we're doing an assessment of what is the most amount of money that you have ever had, the best month of income that you've ever had, the biggest lump sum of cash you've ever had. Okay. Now, I also want you to be aware of over a consistent period of time. So what is your average monthly income or your average annual income? So for example, if year over year you've consistently had $100,000 in income, or $5 or $10 million in revenue through your business. Okay. So now we're looking for sort of your pattern. And you may notice that there's been growth and there might be a growth pattern. So for instance, maybe you were stuck at 6 figures for a while and then you broke through to 7 figures and then you're stuck at sort of this plateau and you're seeing that same kind of consistent pattern. And that's really indicating your beliefs and expectations about what is possible for you financially. All right, now the next thing that I want you to take an assessment of is what happened after you had one of those big financial breakthroughs. So if you had maybe an unusually large revenue month, or you were able to save X number of dollars, and you hit a certain milestone. Maybe it was a goal that you set for yourself, or you got to a certain point and you thought to yourself, wow, I've never had that much money before. What happened after that? So it might have been immediately, like within a couple of days. It might have been within the next couple of weeks. It might have been within the next couple of months. Okay. So what we're looking at here is now you've created for yourself a new level of money that you have not previously had before. Okay. And this is usually where people will hit that upper limit. So if you've ever read the book, The Big Leap, he talks about our upper limit and how when we hit our upper limit, we have a tendency to self-sabotage. So if you've been around me for any length of time, oftentimes I'll talk about our set point. Okay. It's kind of like our internal thermostat, if you will. We have a certain set point and we don't deviate very far from that set point. So if, for instance, you've noticed that, oh, every year for the past 3 years, I've hovered right around the 6-figure mark. And then you have a great month or a great couple of months in your business. And now you're on course for maybe a $200,000 or $300,000 year. And then something will happen. Some type of self-sabotaging pattern will kick in to bring you back down so that you only earn right around that 6 figures again. Okay. So that is our set point. We don't deviate very far from that. If you go up too high and you haven't done the inner work to clear away those self-limiting patterns and recondition yourself for a higher level of wealth, then the self-sabotage will kick in, and it can manifest in all different sorts of ways. So I'm asking you to do a little bit of an assessment on what happened. Did you manifest something breaking that needed to be repaired? Did you lose one of your key employees? Did all of a sudden your clients just sort of dry up and now all of a sudden you're not bringing in the amount of money that you're used to bringing in on a monthly basis, which then brings you back down, right, to that set point. Now, we do have our lower limits as well, and I've talked about this as well. So if you have sort of this, I won't go any lower than this. Okay, that's what we would refer to, or I will frequently refer to as our rock bottom. We will not go lower than our rock bottom. So we have a financial rock bottom too. Now, that's going to be different for everybody. So what is your financial rock bottom? If for you, it's not acceptable to go under a $10,000 month, or it's not acceptable for you to go under a certain amount of revenue in your business every month. Even if you are self-sabotaging, there will be a certain point where you will just simply not go any lower than a certain dollar amount. And that's all based on that internal thermostat, okay? So just take a little bit of time right now and think about what happened. What is your pattern of self-sabotage when you have a month or a year or even a day, whatever it might be for you, where you've made more money than you've ever made before? Or somehow, some way, you've come to possess more money than you ever have before in a certain period of time. Okay. All right. Now that you have identified these things, this is where we need to go in and we need to do our inner work. So we need to start to clean up those self-limiting beliefs. We have to pull out those weeds from the root so that we have the right soil for our beautiful flower garden or beautiful vegetable garden to grow, whatever that is, whatever that metaphor is that resonates with you. Okay. So in this session, I'm going to go through a couple of different clearing exercises based on your information that you've just self-identified. I want you to release on those things, okay? If you need to do additional work on these things that you've uncovered, please do so. Because, as I said at the very beginning, our beliefs and our expectations become our self-fulfilling prophecy, okay? So if you don't work through these things, if you don't cultivate the belief in your ability to have those larger amounts of money, you're going to just keep defaulting to what we just identified right now, okay? So we have to clean this stuff up. That's going to make all of the other work that you're doing more productive, okay? I can share with you something very, very personal. So for many, many, many years, I was doing all sorts of inner work. And that included EFT and clearing and all of that stuff, right? And I was also planting all of these new seeds. So hypnosis and goal setting and affirmations and subliminals and all of this stuff, okay? And I was getting very mediocre results. Now, compared to maybe other people who are not doing any of those things, I was doing pretty good. But compared to where I wanted to be, I was not achieving the level of success that in my heart I really wanted for myself. And it wasn't until I started to really identify what my beliefs and expectations were for myself around money and business and clients and all those types of things that I was able to see that I still had some incongruencies that I had not properly dealt with. So that's why I really want to take you through this exercise of looking at what are your patterns, what are your programs. Take an honest assessment of your expectations. Your expectations are going to be based upon your beliefs, and your results are going to be the sort of the way shower, if you will, to what those beliefs and expectations are, because you essentially are getting in your current life, in your current money situation, evidence of what your beliefs and expectations are. Okay. So we're kind of reverse engineering in a sense, looking from the outside, looking at your current present reality, and then going inward to find out what are those beliefs, what are those expectations. Okay. So before I get into the clearing exercise, I want you to just take a pause and notice, what do you expect? What do you expect your money situation to be? Be very, very honest. What do you expect your money situation to be over the next couple of months? Now, you may need to take a little bit more time for that type of honest introspection, but I'm going to encourage you to do that. Hopefully right now you've gotten enough information that as we're doing this clearing exercise, that you're going to be able to take some of the layers of that off and start uprooting some of those old false limiting beliefs. Okay. All right. So just make sure that now you are setting the intention to be open, to release, to let go. Okay. Take a nice deep cleansing breath in. Now, anything that is in your conscious awareness around the amount of money that you have in your current reality, anything that's coming up for you, can you give yourself permission to just say yes to allowing that energy to come up and let it pass through? So let it come up and let it pass through. So instead of pushing it away, we're going to let it come up. We're going to let it go. We want to uproot those weeds. Okay. So can you give yourself permission to say yes to letting those feelings come up and let them pass through? Are you feeling anger? Are you feeling sadness? Are you feeling disappointment about your current money situation? Whatever you're feeling, can you give yourself permission to say yes to those feelings? Let them come up, let them pass through. Maybe there is fear. What if you don't change? What if you don't uproot these old patterns? What is your future going to look like? Can you say yes to the fear? Let it come up, let it pass through. Give yourself permission to feel the feeling, let it come up, let it pass through. We're releasing it in a healthy, productive way. So instead of repressing, instead of pushing it away, we're just acknowledging this feeling is here. It's inside of me. It's been triggered. And I'm going to let it come up and I'm going to let it pass through. Remember, that's what energy does. That's what emotions do. When we're not repressing, they're naturally flowing through. So are you angry with yourself? Do you feel anger towards others? Do you feel anger towards God? Whatever it is that's coming up for you, can you just say yes to the feelings? They're just feelings. It's not serving you. It is in your subconscious mind, or you would not be experiencing it. So rather than guilting yourself over it, shaming yourself over it, trying to repress it, trying to push it away, trying to talk yourself out of it, just acknowledge it is what it is. I feel the way that I feel, and I'm willing to let it go. Just let the feelings come up and let it pass through. And if there's any resistance, can you say yes to the resistance? Let it come up, let it pass through. Okay, notice how you feel about having this limit on the amount of money that you've been able to make, the amount of money you've been able to have. How do you feel about having that limit? Everything that brings up, can you say yes to those feelings? Let it come up, let it pass through. And let's look at that amount of money, that bigger amount of money, the biggest amount of money that you've ever had possession of. And how does that make you feel? It's probably a mix of different emotions. Everything that's coming up for you, can you say yes to it? Let it come up, let it pass through. The good and the not so good, okay? So if you felt great when you had that amount of money, that's wonderful. Let that feeling flow. Don't stagnate it. Don't hold on to it. That is triggering a feeling of scarcity. Just let it flow, enjoy it, appreciate it, love that good feeling. It felt so good to have that. I give myself permission to feel more of that, right? When we grab onto an emotion, even if it seems like, oh, I should just hold on to that positive emotion. Well, by all means, let yourself feel the positive emotion, but also be willing to let it flow. Because notice that when you're actually really embracing that good feeling, that positive vibration, that it is actually flowing. Okay. It's when you feel like, oh, I don't want to lose that, that you just triggered scarcity. And you actually just shifted from the good feeling into the bad feeling. So don't do that. Let all feelings come up, let all feelings flow. Okay. And when you think about that big amount of money, notice what else is there. Is there disappointment? You don't have it anymore. Is there fear of loss? Maybe you have it right now and you're afraid that it's going to go away. Maybe it feels like it's not sustainable. Notice what's coming up for you, whatever it is, and just notice those are feelings. Let the feelings come up, let the feelings pass through. Can you say yes to the feelings? Can you say yes to the fear? Can you say yes to any negative emotions? Is there disappointment? Is there a sense of loss? Is there guilt? Is there shame? I mean, whatever it is, notice it, welcome it up, let it come up, and let it pass through. And maybe that triggered a sense of, I don't think I can do it again, or what if it never happens again? Those are all negative feelings. Just say yes to that. Let it come up, let it pass through. Can you say yes to the fear? Just keep pulling up that energy, let it come up and let it pass through. All right, now let's look at what happened in your life after you received more money than you've previously had before. Did you self-sabotage? Now, you might say to yourself, I didn't self-sabotage. Something happened to me. Something outside of my control happened to me. But I want you to just take 100% responsibility right now for whatever role you played in co-creating that experience. Because when we self-sabotage, a lot of times it does appear that it is something outside of us, something happening to us, and we become a victim. And that energy is very disempowering and it does not support abundance. So are you willing to let that go? Are you willing to let go of blame? Are you willing to let go of judgment? Can you say yes to those feelings? Let them come up and let them pass through. Now, on the other side of that, sometimes we become very, very angry with ourselves and we get into a lot of disapproval. And that is equally unproductive and is definitely not the energy of abundance. So could you let go of disapproving of yourself? It is what it is. It happened. It's done. It's just old programming. Now we want to pull those weeds out so that we don't keep duplicating the same patterns over and over and over again. It is what it is. Maybe you made a mistake. Maybe you made bad decisions. Maybe the things that you invested in did not work out. It is what it is. It does not have to be your future reality. Are you willing to let those feelings come up and release and let them go? Can you give yourself permission to let go of the fear? Can you say yes to the fear? Let it come up, let it pass through. The fear that you'll self-sabotage, the fear that you'll make a mistake, the fear that you'll lose the money, the fear that you'll never change, whatever that is. Can you say yes to the fear? Let it come up, let it pass through. And if there's any resistance, can you say yes to the resistance? It's just energy, let it come up, let it pass through. We're just pulling that up, weed after weed, just pulling them out. Now, when you think about that pattern of self-sabotage and keeping ourselves stuck in our same old pattern, making the same amount of money or only allowing ourselves to have so much. And then once we get to a certain point, something happens and we always drop back down to our set point. Okay? Notice what that brings up for you. Can you say yes to the feelings? Let them come up, let them pass through. It's not serving you. It's not serving you. It's not serving anyone. Are you willing to let it go? Are you willing to let it go? Notice I did not say, how are you going to let it go? Right? Let's just acknowledge it is what it is. There's no law of the universe that says that it has to be that way from this moment forward. It's not serving you. It's not serving anyone. Are you willing to let it go? So now, what would it feel like? What would it feel like to create a new set point for yourself? What is your goal? Did you write down a goal? Do you have a goal, a financial goal? If not, I'm going to challenge you right now. Make one. Remember, it's your prerogative to change it. So if it's not as high as you feel confident you can go, in another week or 2 weeks, you can raise it. Okay. But for right now, what amount of money would make you giddy? What amount of money would make you feel truly financially secure? What amount of money would make you feel truly abundant, blessed, grateful? That would give you that sense of freedom to share generously, to give to your family, to give to the causes that are important to you. What amount of money would make you feel that sense of financial freedom and empowerment? Knowing that there will be more, right? But what amount of money is your goal? What is your right now financial goal? Even if it's going to take you 3 months or 6 months or a year to get there, you're going to keep accumulating more and more and more to get to that level. What amount of money feels good to you right now? And now, how would it feel? How would it feel if that is your money set point? That's your thermostat. That's where your thermostat is set at from this moment forward. How would that feel to you? To have your subconscious mind working with you in harmony with your conscious desires to create that amount of money in your reality. And now I want you to think for just a moment here, okay? Since we're setting your new money set point, and that will continue to go up, but we're just setting it right there for right now. We also want to raise your lower limit. Remember, we just talked about you have a rock bottom. You will not deviate far from that rock bottom. So as important as it is to raise your new set point, we also need to raise your lower limit, because we don't want you having really high ups and then really low lows, right? That is just traumatic to experience. That's not serving anyone. So we want to raise your lower limit as well, okay? If you've ever been in a situation where maybe you had a pattern in your life and it was not serving you and you struggled with it for a really long time, and then One day you just were like, enough is enough. I'm not going to do this anymore. Maybe it was with your weight, something with your health, something in a relationship, something in your business. Could have been something with money. We've all had this experience, okay? You've been tolerating something that doesn't feel good to you for a very long time. And then one day, it's no longer acceptable to you anymore. And in that moment, you make a powerful decision. I'm done with this. I will not tolerate this anymore. And when you make that decision, you raise your lower limit. And you have just created within your own mind a powerful, powerful commitment to not ever allow yourself to go below that lower limit ever again. So again, it could be with your weight. It could be financially. It could be in a relationship. Maybe somebody treated you poorly for a very long time and you just said, enough is enough. I'm not going to tolerate that ever again. And you didn't. Okay. What is that going to be for you now with respect to money? Where are you no longer ever willing to allow yourself to drop down to? That maybe you have in the past when you did that assessment, right? What is the lowest amount of money that you've historically gone down to? What is that new lower limit going to be for you? Where you say to yourself with conviction, I love, honor, and respect myself too much to ever go underneath this figure ever again. I want you to get really clear on that right now. Based on the person you are becoming, you have invested in yourself. You've invested money, you've invested time, and not just in this program, but in other areas of your life. Based on the person you've become and the person you are becoming, what are you willing to tolerate for yourself? What is no longer acceptable? What has to change? If it feels empowering to you, I want you to write that down, okay? Even if you don't write it down, you need to feel it with conviction in your heart. You've got to raise that lower limit. Because if you do create higher levels of income or wealth for yourself than you've ever experienced before, and you hit an upper limit and you go crashing down, it's not uncommon to go way down to your rock bottom. We've got to raise that lower limit, and you've got to decide right now, what are you going to set that at? What is not acceptable? You're never going to go below that ever again. Okay. So now, as we're wrapping up this session, I want you to go back into the energy of what does it feel like to have this new, higher money set point? When your subconscious mind is locked into that, and that becomes your internal thermostat. When your subconscious mind is working with you, in harmony with you, to create that level of prosperity in your life as your default, where it doesn't feel like a tremendous amount of work or effort because you're not pushing against a tremendous amount of internal resistance from all of those old subconscious weeds. You've pulled them out and your set point is higher. And that's just the way it is. How does that feel? How does it feel to have that amount of abundance in your life? And just breathe it in with every breath, just breathing it into every cell, feeling it in your entire being, What does it feel like to have that new vibrational set point, that new money consciousness? And I'm going to encourage you now to just practice that feeling off and on throughout the day. When the thought enters your conscious awareness, when you hear the word money, when you hear the word wealth, when you see the image of money, or if you are talking with somebody and they're talking about money or income or business, right? But let's really key it in. Let's really key it in. So anytime someone says money, you hear the word money, you think about money. Just like that, it brings you back to, what is that vibration? What does that feel like? What does it feel like when I have that as my set point? So that over and over and over and over and over again throughout each and every day, you are reinforcing that vibration. You are reinforcing it in your subconscious mind. You are creating that new known in your subconscious mind. You are reinforcing that empowering set point. That is your new reality with money. So allow yourself to enjoy this process. Give yourself permission to let go of making it so complicated. Okay? Let's make this easy and light and fun. That's the best way to create positive, empowering new conditioning in your subconscious mind. So that is your assignment. And I really do encourage you to be honest with yourself. Okay. So when stuff comes up, release and let it go. It's not serving you. We want to uproot those weeds, but spend the majority of your time feeling the essence of being abundant. Okay. And we'll see you in the next video.